Hello everyone, I'm Matt Mitrovich, the alternate historian. Since Season 2 of Hulu's adaptation of The Handmaid's Tale is out now, I figured now is a good time to analyze a map inspired by Margaret Atwood's famous dystopia. This is the Republic of Gilead, circa 1986. It was created and published in 2015 by Medaby, a member of AlternatHistory.com, and it represents his personal interpretation of what the theocratic dictatorship from Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale would look like. While Medaby did create the map, the flag in the top left corner was actually created by another member of the forum named, Monkey Flung. Actually, for the internet, a poop joke like that is rather tame. Medaby's map of Gilead was also featured on the website Heavy in 2017, something that Medaby said he found hilarious. But for now, let's talk about the book this map is based on. For those who don't know, The Handmaid's Tale is a 1985 novel set in the near future where declining birth rates motivate fundamentalist Christian terrorists, called the Sons of Jacob, to violently overthrow the American government and turn the country into the Republic of Gilead, where Old Testament rules are codified into the law. Christian faiths, like Catholics and Baptists, are persecuted. Jews are forced to either convert or be expelled, and African Americans, called the Children of Ham, are forced west into new homelands. Remember that last bit. It'll be important later in the video. Meanwhile, women are stripped of their rights and are banned from doing things like reading. Those few who can still bear children are turned into handmaids and given to the leaders of Gilead to impregnate. From the perspective of Offred, we learn what life is like in this twisted version of America. According to Medaby, he was inspired to make the map due to the many implausibilities of the book's setting. Thus, Medaby ignored the novel's commentary on 1980s gender and religious politics, and instead tried to treat it like an alternate history, even if it meant making a lot of details up due to what little the book actually gave him. Did he succeed? Well, let's take a closer look at the map and find out. If I can ignore this scenario for a moment and focus solely on the artistic aspect of the map, I can say that it's a solid okay. Medaby's Gilead appears to use a revised color scheme that is popular for many maps on AlternatHistory.com, although I do admit I'm not familiar with the technical side of map mapping, so someone please correct me if I'm wrong. The notes section on the right is fine, although I did catch a typo or two. Also, Hawaii is not that close to California. I guess Medaby just wanted to make sure we didn't forget about it, but I think just including a box in the bottom left corner would have been better, rather than making it look like alien space bats got tired of how expensive their flights were to Hawaii. Actually, the most notable error is probably the borders of Nunavut, which in our timeline didn't come to being until 1999, but somehow exists in this alternate 1986. To be fair though, I made a mistake involving Canada's subdivisions myself in one of my videos, so I can't harp on Medaby too much. In fact, since Medaby admits this is his first map, we can give him a pass on some of these issues. As for the scenario itself, well, one thing you'll notice pretty quickly is that the United States still exists. Now, both the book and the TV show mention the government being overthrown after the president and Congress are killed, and somehow the military just allows this to happen, a fact which never sat right with me. Even if you argue that the Sons of Jacob infiltrated the military, one has to wonder just how widespread their influence goes. Even factoring the fear caused by declining birth rates, wouldn't there still be some holdouts not just in the military but in other aspects of American life? Would cities and states known for being liberal strongholds really just give up that easily? Thus, I like how the United States still survive in Medaby's map, even if it is confined mostly to the West Coast. In this alternate history version of The Handmaid's Tale, George H.W. Bush, who was vice president in our timeline in 1986, survived the attack on the government and now leads what's left of America. Many may refer to this as a government in exile, although that is perhaps a poor choice of words. Bush and whatever is left of the government haven't been exiled from the continental United States at all. Perhaps if he was holed up in Ottawa waiting for NATO to bail him out, that would be one thing, but it certainly seems from the map that they are still fighting it out. Of course, this may just be me nitpicking. To be honest, the map shares its biggest flaw with both the book and the TV adaptation. As previously mentioned, in the book version, African Americans are not allowed to participate in the Republic of Gilead and are sent out west to new national homelands, paralleling the black homelands created by apartheid South Africa. Medaby referenced this in his map in Note 12, which states, "Stuff here is making South Africa blush." This, however, brings up an important question. Why aren't African Americans fighting back? Throughout the novel, we see several groups fighting back. Baptists are waging guerrilla campaign throughout the South, Jews and Catholics are still practicing in secret, and there's an organized resistance called Mayday, which is working to bring Gilead down from the inside. Yet, according to Atwood's novel, it seems African Americans just meekly left for the Great Plains when told to do so, which seems implausible. As Mickey Kendall said on Twitter in 2017 about how blacks were described in The Handmaid's Tale, black people did not survive slavery, Jim Crow, and the war on drugs to be taken out by a handful of white boys with guns. Granted, maybe some of the Baptists fighting in the South are black, but the only time we get a specific mention of African Americans is a brief note that simply says they exited stage left. In my humble opinion, if Medby wanted to create a more plausible scenario for The Handmaid's Tale, he would have addressed this fact. To be fair, though, the show is not much better. The producers of Hulu's adaptation did away with the racist side of Gilead under the argument that fertility would trump race, and maybe they're right. Unfortunately, this missed out on an opportunity to show how some evangelical Christians have an extremely racist side to them and might embrace Gilead's policy of racial separation. Plus, how many people on the right who harp about declining birth rates and the dangers that brings to Western civilization are hoping people of color step in to have more children? For a show that people keep telling me is really important for our times, it really does seem the producers dropped the ball on the race issue. Of course, you can kind of tell by looking at me that I'm white, so I might not be the best person to talk about this. Instead, let's just wrap up the video by sharing my final thoughts on the map. While I have been critical of Menaby's map for most of this video, I still think it's a good first-time map. Menaby managed to take what little that Atwood's novel gave him and create a more plausible scenario. More importantly, not many people have tried visualizing Gilead through a map, so Menaby should be given credit for taking a chance at being the first to create something like this. Flaws aside, I still think it's worth checking out, and I can say the same for The Handmaid's Tale, both the novel and the TV show. Well, that's all I have to say on the subject. If you like what I do, please comment, subscribe, share this video, support me on Patreon. I'm Matt Mitrich, the alternate historian. Bye!